Hi everybody, it's Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live. This is number 174. Today we're going to talk about the question is best online courses question mark Singer's Impact. This is a shameless promotion, a live broadcast today. I don't do this a lot. I've been doing YouTube for about 5 years, but I want to share some information with you about Singer's Impact. But first, let me say hello for those of you who are online here, Alan and George. Hey, George, great to see you. Missed you a little bit here. So let me ask this question. What percentage of your learning how to sing is online, is on the internet? And that could be through, I'm not talking about live Skype voice lessons, because there's the live interaction is different than online, like watching videos or doing online courses. I guess you could compare that in the olden days to listening to, well, let's just say it. Let's include learning by, reading books or learning by listening to recordings of any kind, MP3 recordings on CDs, or however form you listen to those. What percentage of your learning how to sing is based either online or in recording versus live interaction? So that's the question. So Alan says about 90%. Alan, I'm curious, what would be the other 10% for you? Just wondering. For me, when I was younger and really getting into singing again, which is about 23 years ago, there was no internet. There was no internet. We did have video, but we didn't have a way to share video, and so I purchased Singing for the Stars by Seth Riggs, which was a book with CDs. And so that actually consumed a lot. For a couple years, that was all I did. I had live lessons at first with one of his teachers, one of Mr. Riggs's teachers, for about 7 months or so. And then we parted ways. She moved out of town. For the next 2.5 years, that's all I did in terms of vocal study and working with my voice, was listening to audio or tapes and reading this book. Adrian, hey, nice to have you here today. Adrian in the middle. George says mostly MP3 from the course I'm in. Yeah. Okay. The question, Adrian, is what percentage of learning to sing for you is online, essentially? Is it online, recorded video, or maybe online recorded audio, or offline but recordings like CDs or MP3s and so forth? Alan says, of 10%, I've got a few friends who are professional singers, and they gave me some advice. But as I said, 90% totally online from you. Well, thank you. I hope I've been helpful. And it worked. Okay, well, awesome. Stephen, hello. 100% all YouTube. Interesting. I think that I would have been big time on YouTube also as a learner and a student had I had that available to me. It's really hard, I think. It's hard. Well, tell me, you guys, what's hard about that? What is hard for you in terms of learning how to sing by using YouTube, using, just like I did, just CDs at the time? I would get in my car and I'd pop this. Well, actually, when I was doing it, it was cassette tapes. And I should probably get one out to show you what they look like. But they worked really well in the car. We had a cassette player in my car, and I'd get in the car, pop the cassette tape in, and then I would do exercises while I was driving, and I was in the sales industry, sales field, and so I would be in the car a lot. And so whenever I got in the car, those things turned on, and I would do vocal exercises. And I had one place where I went 3 times a week. It was an hour away, one way, so it was a 2-hour round trip. And I did a lot of singing and a lot of practicing in the car to cassette tapes, along with the cassette tapes. What about you guys? What do you find? So Adrian says about 80% online. And so have many CDs and YouTube for George. So Adrian, what is the 20%? What 20% are you not online in terms of learning how to sing? Just wondering. For those of you who've just joined us, the question is, what percentage of learning is online for you for singing? Are you online, is that 100%, or are you, and online, let me include in this recorded, maybe not necessarily MP3s online, but MP3s that you have at your disposal. It's on your phone, or maybe you have some CDs or whatever. Let's include that also. Anything that's not necessarily live with a singing teacher. Be curious what your percentage is of that kind of learning versus an actual, interaction with a live teacher. Alan says, oh man, cassette tapes, my childhood, when I was always disturbed by neighbors with music. Yeah, and before that, you guys wouldn't remember this. I don't know, maybe George, you might. They were 8 tracks, and they were great big they were big cassettes. And I went to a university that was about 1,000 miles from my home, and we would travel in the car, and I traveled with one of my fellow. I don't think he was actually a student. For some reason, though, we traveled together. I think he went north and I went south, but he had these big cassette players and they're 8 tracks. So they were great. I mean, they were just large cassette tapes, I guess you could say. And golly, before that, I guess we didn't have anything. We just listened to the albums at home. We couldn't travel and listen to it. MP3s, I think the first players were cassette players, and then they were DVD players, or CD players rather. So that's all in our past. Now we've got MP3 files or digital files. We can just download them in an email and put them on our phones, and it's so convenient. And having YouTube is so convenient. Okay, so what percentage, anyone who's joined us, what percentage of your learning how to sing is online? So when someone gets online and they're looking for, and they don't know anything about singing, they might type in the search bar, best online courses, best online singing courses. I don't know did I leave that out? I left that out of my title, best online. Did I leave that out of the title of this? Yeah, best singing courses. There we go. Best singing courses online. So they might type in best singing courses online just to get a list of singing courses. So today I want to talk a little bit about, but I'm very, very curious about what your percent of learning is in terms of learning how to sing. George says he remembers 8 tracks and prior albums. Yeah, 33s and 45s. I'm with you there, George. My little brother and I, we had a little portable 45 record player, and I just remember we had a record. It was Tom Dooley, and Hang Down Your Head, Tom Dooley, and on the other side of it was something about the Erie Canal, and we listened to that 5,000 times, and we listened to it over and over and over all day long, and we'd sing along with it, and we'd turn it over and then sing along with that side. And it's a great way, by the way, to develop your ear for music and ear for singing. But yeah, 45s or the little small ones, 33s. Of course, now vinyl, it's called, is coming back. And there's a certain kind of sound that they have that people migrate to. I remember when CDs first came out, we all migrated to CDs because of the clarity, the crispness and the detail of the music in the digital form. So, it goes back and forth, doesn't it? Okay, so learning online is hard. I think it's challenging. I think learning by yourself is challenging. Please share with me, you guys, what the biggest challenge is in terms of learning on your own, kind of solo, online. Hey, Daniel, nice to have you here today. I'm taking a singing course, which is good because is someone giving you feedback, which is good because someone's giving you feedback. At the internet, you find a lot of techniques to improve your voice. With that being said, for me, it's like 70% online. Good. Daniel, thank you for sharing that. Adrian says, I always suspected there was something like a mixed voice, though. Laugh out loud, so I started to sing in head voice. Yeah, at first. And so I'll share with you my challenge of learning by myself. And I'd really love to hear any of you with an experience where you find it hard. What are the difficult or the challenging aspects of learning on your own, without a live coach, let's say, without going to a live voice lesson? What's the challenge of learning online and in learning online courses? I'll share you mine. As I mentioned, I took lessons for 7 months, and then I was on my own for 2.5 years. I did not have a voice teacher, and so I was all on listening to the cassette tapes. And believe it or not, in my first lesson, after 2.5 years, and maybe I've shared this with some of you, do you know what my first question was as we were doing vocal exercises? And maybe I shared this last week, I can't remember. We were doing something like, and I was doing those exercises for him, and here's what I said, what is that? He said, what is what? I said, what is it that I'm doing there? Is that head voice? Or is it, am I in falsetto? He said, that's your head voice. Well, imagine, 2.5 years of being on my own, and I still wasn't sure, listening to CDs and doing exercises and even having some previous lessons, for a period of time. I still was uncertain whether I was in falsetto or head voice. And there's a big difference in terms of the vocal cords and their condition, their coordination, their alignment, their, what they're doing. And so I just, that was so what does that say? It says that I just wanted somebody to tell me if I was doing it the way I thought. I thought I was in head voice, but I wasn't sure. I wanted someone to confirm that with me. Would you tell me if I'm doing this the way I think I am? So that's a challenge for me. I'm curious what you feel like is a big challenge for you learning on your own by yourself. Devox's biggest challenge. How do you know you're actually doing what the video is asking you to do? That's just right. That's exactly what I was feeling. Because I'd be listening to the tapes and I'd try to do it the way I was hearing, but just to match it up, you can do what you can, but you're not. I wasn't for sure. So Devox, I think you're right on the money. Kadar says you're pretty much. I'm pretty much normal or not good or bad at singing. Should I imitate singers to get their style? Some days I imitate them for a day and then I get to sound pretty good. Imitation is a very popular way to learn, and so that's kind of online learning. The only problem is, Kedar, is if they're using poor technique, you're imitating poor technique, and that happens a lot. I get kids who come into my studio here live, and some years ago they were all singing like Adele, and you know what they were all doing? They were pulling their chest voice. So I thought, oh, what am I going to do here? I don't want to slam Adele, but the kids, just the girls, just were all like blasting at the top of their chest, and that was her technique, which is why she hemorrhaged twice. So you got to be careful with that, but it's a great way to learn technique. It's a great way to learn style, but you really want to try and stick with singers that are doing things right, so that you don't, because you could be anyway. We know what that's like. Ishmael says, Ismail, one challenge is not being sure whether or not what I'm doing is right. LOL. Ditto. For existence, my kid register was at first so falsetto, but then with lots of practice, I was able to make it more full. Yeah, but then you're thinking, well, am I doing it the right way? Okay, so Kedar says the next day it was gone or something. Alan says I think the hardest thing in learning online is, for example, learning by yourself how to do the exercises and doing them correctly. Because if you don't have feedback, you might do wrong. It sounds to me like our experiences that we've had learning on our own, ladies and gentlemen, is about the same. That's the big question. Am I doing this right? Adrian says, same reason why I started to search online, falsetto or head voice. Yeah. Well, it took me a little while to know the difference now. And that's one thing that I didn't have. As I mentioned, that we didn't have YouTube or online video yet when I was doing this on my own. And so I didn't have quite the availability of learning that we have now because of YouTube. It does help for sure. But I still think it's challenging. I think there's still that challenge. You're not quite sure if you're doing it right. Kedar says, they say I should do technique before than style. I heard it before. I know pretty much, he said a lot of singing, but I'm not sure. Hey, from Russia, nice to have you here. So, as far as imitating other singers, I think it's a good idea if you have your technique down, if you can mix and not pull chest, if you know what pulled chest is, if you know what falsetto and head voice is, so that way you can monitor yourself and protect your voice and do it the right way. But as far as style, it's sometimes really one of the best ways to learn is by imitating another singer. Look at Michael Bublé. When he came out, the first time I heard his voice, I thought, well, he's just, his influence is Frank Sinatra. You could hear it right away. That's so different now, though. It's much more developed into his own style. But it helped him. It helped him in so many different ways, and that's true for a lot of singers, a lot of us. I think I listened to Richard Kiley, which probably many of you don't know who Richard Kiley is, but he was a Broadway star and a really great bass voice, and he was the first Don Quixote. Played Don Quixote in Man of La Mancha on Broadway, and I listened to that album 1,000 times when I was in high school. And so he's a big influence. So we all have our influences, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're singing the right way. We have to be careful. Okay, so like the key for singing, Kedar says, look up for the singers, their technique, watching coaches, talk about the performance. Sounds pretty easy, but it could take time. Daniel, I agree with you that the biggest challenge for me is to find and develop my own voice. Message retracted. I like where you were going with that, though, Daniel. Finding our own voice is another issue, and so sometimes singing with other people, singers online or that you're following, can, if you take 3 or 4 different people and combine them as different influences, then eventually your own style does and can emerge. But style and technique is different. I'm not a style coach. I'm a technique coach. So I coach and teach how to sing, not necessarily stylish, but the technique of singing. I feel like I really strong desire for singing and doing guitar loops, just like Ed Sheeran. But school is really making me tired and stuff, and could have here like I'm lazy. All right. Okay, so it is helpful, you guys, to know. Sounded like saying Frank Sinatra, yeah. Okay, so all right, so I think we have. Anyone else have any other insight? And if you've just joined us, the question was, what percentage of your learning for singing is online or is through recordings or books, live video, or video in YouTube, or CDs, or MP3s on your phone, or so forth? What percentage of your learning to sing is that versus like a live voice lesson where you go and study with a live teacher, either on Skype or so? I'm not talking about Skype learning. That's a lot. If you're taking a lesson, that's a live lesson. I'm talking about recorded stuff that you can play over and over again and watch repeatedly and so forth. And if you know the percentage, what's the biggest challenge of doing that on your own? So, so this brings me to, and I've shared this a few minutes ago, but my biggest challenge was I didn't know if I was doing it right. And several of you have also indicated that you just weren't sure that what you were doing was what you thought you were doing. So for me, it was like, am I in head voice, or is that falsetto? And I just needed somebody to say, no, that's head voice, and because I thought it was head voice. So not knowing for sure, now that's a little bit of a challenge. If you're learning math online, you know that whether the answer is right or wrong. When we're learning a skill like singing, I don't know, even. I suppose that, maybe a sport, like let's just say it's learning how to swing the golf club or learning how to play golf, could be compared to that. But, if you get up to the ball and hit it, a long way every single time, you got to be doing something right. But if you hit it long once and then you shank it left or right once and then, and you're not consistent, then you start to think, well, I must be doing something wrong, but I'm not sure what. Learning a physical skill is a little more challenging than learning how to do social media, or I don't know. It just seems like it is to me. I don't know. Maybe you guys have a different opinion. All right, so let me talk about, let's talk about, I want to share with you what I'm doing with, this is my solution to the problems that we've talked about today. And it's called Singers Impact. So George is a member of Singers Impact, and what it is it's a membership site. So what's a membership site? It's a paid subscription, and so people pay monthly or annually, and they have access to a bank of videos and singing courses. In my case, with Singers Impact. So I'll describe to you what's inside Singers Impact, and then I want to share with you what makes this a little bit more of a solution to the problem that we all have been talking about, and that is hearing someone tell us whether we're doing it right or wrong, or at least being in a group setting where you can see other people doing it wrong or right and watch them learn, because there's a lot of learning with a buddy, study buddies. So Singers Impact is an online membership site that I began a year and a half ago, and the inside Singer's Impact, there's kind of there's stages laid out. So stage one in terms of learning how to sing. Stage one includes a fundamentals course and about just overall singing fundamentals from my perspective of technique. And then there's an introductory course. It's not an introductory course, it's a significant course on learning how to bridge. And also working with vocal types, which many of you are already doing. So we're consistently focusing in on what's your vocal type and what are the exercises you need for your vocal type to correct the problems, and how do we learn how to bridge? That is, go from chest to head without cracking, breaking, straining, reaching. So that's the very first thing we focus in on. Stage number two is, so that's called Sing Higher. Stage one is called Sing Higher. Stage two is Sing Better. And so there are 3 courses right now inside stage two. And these are all 3 of these courses are to improve what we started doing in stage one, to get better at singing high notes, to get more consistent, to get more predictable, to get more skilled at it, to improve what's happening, to master the high note, to make them impressive. And then what about vibrato? If you don't have vibrato, we've got to have vibrato in our voices. So that's all covered in stage two. In stage three is sing songs. So sing higher, sing better, sing songs. So the stage three is all about application to songs. And stage four is called singing mastery, which is the journey of mastering all of the things that we're learning about singing. But here's how I'm addressing the problem of having someone listen to you. What I'm doing inside Singer's Impact is once a week I do something kind of similar to this, except inside Singer's Impact I've got the ability to like bring a person right online in the show and work with them right there. So it kind of looks like this. Let me just pull this. I'll show you I'll show you a picture of the videos. Like these are just. Let me bring this up and okay. Let's see here. All right. So here are these are just copies of videos. These are all in the archive, and these are live. This is called Singer's Impact Live, and what I do is members of Singer's Impact come online with me. Now, this one on the far right here, where you see my cursor, my arrow, this one is where I have a gentleman from Australia, a gentleman from Arizona, and one at a time I work with them in front of people who are members of Singer's Impact who are watching, and I worked with their voices. So as you can imagine, when you're doing that, when I'm working with people live online, people who are watching are learning from that, and they can ask questions. Why did you do that? What impact did this have? But it doesn't take me very long to help people say, help them say, well, did I do that right? Yes, that's right. You're on the right track. Get the next person. So I do that once a month. But then there's another time during the month that's called Student Focus. So you can send me, if you're a member of Singer's Impact, you can send me a video, short, like a 1-minute clip of something you're doing, either an exercise or something you're singing, and I give you feedback and coaching on it. And it works. I can say something effective. Yeah, you're mixing. The vowel is a little open on this word, so you want to take the vowel and narrow it to this, and try that, and that's going to feel a little bit better for you because it's slightly pulling chest there. But so, you start to really like hone in on, okay, I'm starting to get what I'm doing because I'm getting feedback from Chuck, or I'm watching somebody else do it, and I'm doing it exactly the same way, and I can follow the same advice that Chuck just gave Stu, and and then I can correct it because I'm watching someone else learn. So it's like attending a group class. I do that once a month, the student focus. The other one once a month is I'm actually going to do reaction videos. I'm going to do reaction videos inside Singer's Impact, so that so for example, this last month I did one on Stevie Wonder and some of on his song. Oh my gosh, what was it? Stevie Wonder's song. Did I write it down? Let me see here. So that one was called Reaction Video, and let me see. Oh, Signed, Sealed, and Delivered. So it was really, really insightful because he's a mixer. He studied with Seth Riggs for 40 years, and he knows how to do it. And so I went through that and highlighted different places where he was mixing and showing how he could have done it, and how he did it correctly, and so forth, as mainly a way to train our ear. And so that's coming up. But I'm very open to, if someone inside Singer's Impact says, "Hey, would you review that? Would you react to this particular singer here?" So it becomes an ear training process. And it's very open to individuals that are inside Singer's Impact. I can review things they would like to have reviewed, so that they're learning and the rest of us are learning. We share it. We share it in an environment of learning inside Singer's Impact. And the last one of the month is just a Q&A. The Q&A I call the green room, and it's like this. It's more like this question and answer process, but it's a little bit better because students will, members of Singer's Impact can submit it beforehand, so I can, if there's a long, in-depth problem or question, or a question about a singer or something, I can address those kinds of questions. So what I'm saying is, I not only have courses here of the things that I teach on YouTube, but it's not like you have to watch 400 videos to find, or there's so many videos I have on YouTube, and it's okay. It's great that there's so many, and I have a whole series from episode 1 through like episode 103, and that's great too. But it's nice to be able to have step by step A through Z, where I'm kind of I've ordered things in a more logical process, and then every week there's an opportunity to have a personal touch with me. And so that's Singer's Impact, you guys. I'll take any questions you might have about it, or any other questions here. Okay, so let me just back up a little bit because I'm behind here on the information's being shared. Frank Sinatra is a legend. Yes. Have SUG, so it goes. I'm not sure what that means. From George, sorry. Daniel, my point is that I don't want to imitate anyone. I want to develop my own voice. Yeah, Daniel, and because there's already a Michael Bublé, right? Or there's already a Paul McCartney. We want you. We want your original. We want your sound. We want your voice, because everyone else is taken. If you want to develop styles, you should watch Christina Aguilera's masterclass for technique. This channel is best. Okay. You should imitate their style, use their style, and implement your voice. It's false that is wrong for your voice. Yeah, the only thing I would say, question about early Christina Aguilera, I think is a little better. I think she's getting into some vocal trouble now. I heard something recently. I heard her voice, and I was very surprised. It sounded like it was very abused voice. But style-wise, that's always a question. You have to be careful that the style you develop also supports your technique, and it's not going to ruin your technique and ruin your voice. Adrian says, I read a book once, I almost forgot that, about singing. Yeah, and I read Singing for the Stars pretty regularly. And there's also another one I read that I loved. It's called The Voice of the Mind, and it's a guy named Cesare, and Herbert Cesare, and it was excellent. I'm going to reread it. I wrote in the margins, I underlined paragraphs. It took me a couple of years to work through it. I loved it. So we can learn a lot. I learned a lot about vowels and kind of the philosophy of singing. I just really enjoyed it. It can be very helpful. It kind of augments, what we're learning live, right? Or on YouTube. So Kedar says, I can't even tell if it's falsetto or head voice, but I can go pretty high. But it sounds like yelling or like it's weak. Yeah. Devox says, has been 100% so far. Downside has been I could have fast-tracked progress with a live instructor. Devox brings up a really good point. And there isn't anything, there's really no comparison in terms of speed of learning when you're in a live lesson. And in fact, even like person to person, if you were physically here, it's a little faster than Skype because Skype has a delay, right? But so all right, so Kader says that's what the vocal fry is for. Yes, it's true. As a former golf instructor, golf instruction comparing is dead on. Oh, Devox, cool. Yeah, what's your handicap? If you're a golf instructor, I'm not in your league. I can tell you that. I haven't played for years, actually. When I started teaching live voice lessons, my golf time dropped off. And the revenue for golf. So yeah, Devox, what's your handicap? Adrian says falsetto, head voice, pulled mix. All right, I'm a little behind on the conversation there, but let me see if there's another question. Best singers, a lot of them not famous, find their own style and sound and have the right technique. Yeah, Ivan, I'm totally in agreement. I would like to hear you singing in pulled mix mode later. At least a short example of it. In pulled mix. Yeah, I don't know if I'm really good at pulled mix. My mix is pretty strong, and so I don't have too hard of a time making it that way. Let me hit some of these questions here. When you say sing higher, what if you're a natural bass baritone? Gary, good question. When I sing down here when I'm in choir, that's the low E, and I've got quite a bit of heft in the bottom. So I'm termed a basso cantata, which is a bass with tenor notes. A little scratchy, and I've got some reflux all the time, so I don't always have that clear low note like I'd like. But Gary, I have a lower voice also. But I thought that E above middle C was the top until I was 43. I found out that it wasn't the top of my voice. I didn't realize that I had a head voice. I mean, that I could go beyond the that's all further I could go. Unless I cracked. I'm the key of E, the key of A, sorry. G, Now I couldn't do that. Until some years after I was 43. I mean, I started getting up into my head voice right away with this technique, and it like blew my mind. And I suddenly realized that I knew nothing about my voice. I thought I was a bass. I thought I couldn't sing any higher than an E above middle C, and I thought I couldn't have vibrato. Because I wasn't born with vibrato. And I found out I was wrong about that. So you are, prefer singing the range of Tennessee Ernie Ford or Josh Turner. So 16 tons and what do you get? I owe my soul to the company store. Yeah, I love Tennessee Ernie Ford. And his range is, right where I'm comfortable. But you have something else, Gary. You have a head voice. And the thing is, I just didn't know about head voice, and I didn't believe that I could sing any higher than the E. I just went up to the A above middle C, and so we. That's why That's what I'm doing. What I'm doing here, and that's why I have Singer's Impact. So Singer's Impact is not. So if you have an interest in joining Singer's Impact, it's not. I'm going to be releasing it in the next day or so. Okay. In the meantime, go and in the description below this YouTube video, just get on the wait list, and you'll be given information about it. And if it's not the wait list, it'll be the live link. When it goes live, I'll put the live link in. But meanwhile, get on the wait list, and then I'll send you more information about it, and then you can decide what you want to do. It's going to be it's ridiculously low cost. The Evil Genius, hey, nice to have you here today. Be safe and take care of your health. Yeah, you guys, hope everybody's doing okay with the virus. I don't know anyone personally that has it, but we're staying at home. We're not going to church. We're not going to the theaters closed. I auditioned for Newsies last week, and right when they were supposed to call us for callbacks, the direction in the United States was that we couldn't have groups larger than, I think the new policy is like 10. So the theater said, well, we just postponed Music Man, and so we're going to have to postpone the casting of Newsies. I was auditioning for Pulitzer. So everything's shutting down, right? We're all going through that. So we got more online time. How much how much and how does one join? So Stephen, I put the link in the description below. I think it says wait list. Join that, and the pricing will be introduced in as soon as I'll send out some videos. Not quite finalized all of that, but it's going to be very affordable for all of us to learn to sing. How much? Okay, so I haven't played golf for about 10 years since switching. Passion to singing. All right, Devox. Me too. Okay. Good. All right, so any other questions about Singer's Impact that I could answer for you guys in terms of like what's in it, or what the benefit is? I think the benefit is I'm teaching there what I teach in YouTube. It's in a more compact, concise courses. There's about 12 hours of courses total, like 700 minutes of courses, and there's 6 courses total, about 700 minutes, 12 hours of coursework. But I'm going to be adding courses regularly. I have been adding courses regularly. There were some founding fathers, George being one of them. I think when he came on, there was one course. Thank you, George, for that, and for sticking around. But now there are 6, and there are going to be many more in the future. And but the other part of it is the personal touch, where I have an opportunity to give you some more direct coaching, and or have you sit in and watch the group class right online with our other members. Devox, yeah, gonna live stream gigs when we can't do live ones. It's very possible, this is going to be the life as we know it for the next, we're talking about 8 weeks. I'm hoping that if we all follow all the guidelines for the virus all over the world, we can choke this thing to death, and it doesn't have any place to go, and all the sick ones can get well and become non-contagious. So Adrian says, I hear a dude that I am not sure if he sings in head voice or whistle. What is the highest note in head voice? This dude can hit a G5 easily. Well, Well, I wasn't easy, but I can do G5. That's not a whistle. That's just a head voice. And I don't think there's, I don't. I would say probably anything above. I mean, I've heard a recording of a lady singing the C7, 5, 6, yeah, 7 would be up there. And she sang. It was an opera, and it was, I mean, like, amazing, but it wasn't a whistle tone. She was in a head voice of some sort. So I can't really tell you what note would become a whistle note. Maybe for some guys that would be a whistle note. For me, it's just it's a high note. I'm reaching the upper range of my voice on that G5. Like that. You singing in your head voice, that's head voice. Yeah, now because it's not, I didn't break into falsetto. So you can sing every note in head voice that you can sing in falsetto. There's no real benefit at all of singing in falsetto, except that it's light and you can do a stylish thing with it. You can, like, do a crack, like Sarah McLachlan in Angel. I actually love that song, and she uses that little crack in the falsetto for style. I don't think she has to do it that way, but she chose to do it that way. Here's the point. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with falsetto unless you have to do it in falsetto. Then you're limited. So I don't have to do that G5 in falsetto. I probably could. But in falsetto, you have to reconnect back into your chest voice. Whereas head voice just blends right in the chest, which is pretty amazing. And that way you don't have to worry about cracking or flipping or breaking or anything like that. Vocal, when you go into falsetto, the vocal cords come apart. And so they're barely touching. And for guys, it sounds like Mickey Mouse. And it just doesn't work. Not on stage, not for me. So yeah, there's some reasons why, Adrian, I can do that, and it's just because I fundamentally can keep the larynx down. Someone here, I can't remember who was it. Gary Brown. It's the reason why we get stuck down low in our voices. We can't get through our bridge, our transition zone from chest to head. Is because the larynx comes up and it chokes everything off. We go into swallowing mode. Larynx goes up, closes things off, and then we get squeezing and reaching and tension, and we can't get into our head voice. Well, I didn't know that you could even do that, so it wasn't like I couldn't. I could. I just didn't know how, and that's the main issue. That's what I teach. I teach people how to actually get through this area of the voice that feels like the top. Now I'm talking to us guys. For the ladies, they have a lot more top. They know you can break into falsetto and go on up and up and up and up. For us guys, though, falsetto is not very serviceable because it's so different from our sound. Unless you want to, that's what you're going for. But in musical theater, which is my thing, when I was in high school, there was a role I would like to have had. I didn't even try out for it because I knew I couldn't sing it. And it was Billy Bigelow in Carousel, and his big soliloquy, he has an F. It's only half a step away from E. But E was already a strain for me. And so F that's off limits. That's for tenors. So I didn't try out for it. But he ends up with this, I got to make certain that, let me see. What would it be? I got to make certain, I got to make certain that, I got to make certain that she won't be dragged into slums with a lot of bums like me. Anyway, he ends up singing this great big song, and then it says, or die. Well, I couldn't do that in high school. I could, if only way I could do it is to say, "Oh, die." Imagine that. It wouldn't work. He's the big bad guy, you know. Well, a troubled individual, and but he was the lead, and he had the great song, but I couldn't do it other than falsetto. Now you might be able to do pop stuff like that, but you can't be singing this great big powerful soliloquy and end up in die. So it just doesn't work for some music. You have to learn how to do it in your, you know, in this case, in your mixed voice. Mom, 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 die, die, die. So it takes a while to learn that. I learn how to do it. I learn that you can do it, or even believe that you can do it. We cover this stuff inside Singer's Impact and on this channel too. Adrian says, "Can I post a link to a YouTube video in here?" I don't know. No, you know what, Adrian? Here's why. I got this message today from YouTube. If they hear live music, if someone's copyrighted music comes through my live broadcast, they can just turn it off. Just switch it off. Now, I haven't had that happen yet because I haven't tried doing live music, but I got this message today. Because of the virus, coronavirus, YouTube has sent most of their people home, and now there's just a few people that monitor these violations. So the warning was not that they're going to be turning off fewer feeds like this, or they're going to be assigning copyright patent issues on the other videos online. They're going to do fewer of them. They're going to actually do more of them. You're more likely to get copyright problems now that there's fewer people monitoring it, because it's mostly machine doing it, and machine can't discern when it's fair use like we're doing. Adrian, it would be fair use. Technically, I'm teaching, and I'm analyzing, and I'm commentary, and I'm comparing, and I'm changing the original product, the original, you know, copyrighted material. All a machine can hear is, oh, there's some music is copyrighted, boom, and your feed turns off. You go blank. And if they do that, you know, you can get copyright strikes all the time on the other videos, the edited videos on YouTube. I've got a whole page of them, notifications from YouTube that I am in violation of someone's copyright, and so they threaten you to take the video down, or allow the copyright owner to claim if there's an advertisement on there, they get the revenue and all that stuff. So sorry, I wouldn't be able to open that up and listen to it here, because YouTube will turn the channel off. They'll turn the feed off, and they can even threaten to close the whole take Power to Sing all the way off their channel. So I try not to do that. I post. Adrian says, "Can I post?" Yeah. So it wouldn't be a good idea in a live broadcast. If you want to, Adrian, you want to like go on one of my videos online and post it, then I'll play it offline. You know, just make a comment on. You can go back later, listen to this feed, make a comment on it, put the feed in there, put the link in there, and I'll answer your question. What your opinion is? It in head voice or whistle voice? Adrian, I don't really know the difference. I'm going to tell you right now. I don't know the difference between head voice and a whistle note voice, and a really high head voice note. So I could do it this way. You know, like a C-sharp 6. And I'm, you know, that's a whistle note for me, because I'm doing an inverted breathing. I'm breathing inward through my vocal cords rather than outward. So I'm getting air coming into my lungs through my vocal cords, and I'm getting that whistle tone. But I know there are people who can do it the other way, but I can just sing head voice up to the G5 today. And for some people that's whistle, but for me it's not. Okay, anyway. M. Tall, countertenor. Stephen, I love to write songs, but I can't sing half of what I'm hearing in my head. Stephen, this is why this is really it's a great comment. This is the technique that I'm teaching in Singer's Impact, on my YouTube channel, when I do it personally, is to help songwriters be able to sing their music. Help songwriters be able to sing their music, because a lot of the music written today is in head voice, and a lot of songwriters want to write their music there, but they can't get it up there. They can't sing it. So that's what this is all about, as getting through the bridge, getting it through into your mix, and getting up into head voice. Got about 4 minutes left here, and then probably ought to wrap it. Adrian, oh yes, you are right. I heard about copyright issues. Yeah, it's a major pain. M. Tall, countertenor, do they sing in falsetto? No, there may be some, but most of them just have they're in head voice. They just have in fact, there's one gentleman like Chris who joins us sometimes, who's countertenor, he says. I haven't heard him sing, but he's told me he's countertenor. He says he's never been in falsetto. He's never been able to break into falsetto. He's always had just a high head voice. And so I think that's more common than not. Hi, Chuck. Dang, I thought you were starting in 5 minutes. Oh, sorry. It's one. Oh, you know what? Sorry. Eros, the states, including my state in the U.S., all went to daylight savings time. 2 weeks ago, we turned our clocks forward an hour. So we are now daylight savings time. And so we probably were an hour later last. Oh, wait a minute. You're 2 hours. That would be, yeah, I'm thinking you would have missed it by an hour if my thoughts were correct. So I'm confusing myself. Some of you might be late by an hour because we moved our time forward. But that's not your issue, Heroes. Yeah, that's where you guys can see I'm a singer, and I have problems with that kind of logic. Adrian in the middle says if the singer I'm referring to is King Diamond, if you want to take a look when you're not casting, the song is Welcome Home. Okay, Welcome Home. That is Whistle. Am I right? Okay, so I'll just have to let you know. Somebody might want to answer. Somebody can listen and make a comment on it. I sing scales on an app daily, and taking voice lessons once a week. So, Mr. TB2 or ARVD, what percentage would you say is online learning or recordings and so forth? Because it sounds, if you're taking once a week, I would say that's the majority of your learning would be in person. I bet that Kind of Diamond sings in a high head voice. I'll have to check it out. Don't know if I'm in time. I just wanted to ask a little question. Is the head voice basically a falsetto with connected vocal cords? I feel like it's like that. So Eros, yes and no. Yes, in terms of they both vibrate or resonate in the same location, the same place. But so they both resonate in our heads. However, the vocal cord, the condition of the chord structure is different. There is a difference between the chord structure of falsetto and the chord structure of head voice. And if I were looking at you and looking right at your Adam's apple and looking right at your neck, I would be looking into the side to the end, the front end view of your vocal cords. So it's like I'm looking right here. And this is how they would do it. In head voice, you've got a little bit of this depth of the vocal cord going. Okay? So in slow motion, in a wave motion like this, if you were in falsetto, it'd be like this. And it's just the outer edge, this outer edge of the chord structure, and the muscle is disengaged. It's not participating in the sound. It's just the outer edges of the chord structure. The mucosal edge of the chord structure is the falsetto. So it vibrates in the same place, but the chord structure is different. And that's one reason why head voice blends in to the chest voice, is because the muscle is always been still engaged. It's maybe not as deep as chest voice would be, but there's muscle in it. So you've got more depth of the vocal cords versus falsetto, which is up here. There's some muscle participating. The thyroid arytenoid is participating in head voice, and therefore you can blend back down in the chest without having to reconnect back into chest. That's the difference. Good question. Okay, so we got to wrap this up, and let me just blast through this last couple comments. Thanks for joining me today. Singers Impact, keep your eyes out. If you want to get on the wait list, it's going to be in the next day or two, probably in the next 24 hours or so. So keep your eyes peeled. Get on the wait list, and so there's a comment here from Devox. I think a good example of the male whistle voice. Just listen to Gigolo by David Lee Roth. It's a few of them. Okay, thanks, Devox. And these comments will be available if you come back and watch. The comments will start scrolling on here, so you can come back later and watch this too. Any suggestion of keeping the voice strong during this pandemic? So, George, I say just, the same old thing. Stay rested, stay hydrated, stay away from sickness if you can, of course, and vocalize. Vocalize regularly. Vocalize if you can every day, and keep your voice working. And I think we'll be fine. If you don't get sick, this is the best tip. Don't get sick. That's the suggestion. I think King Diamond is head voice falsetto. So it's either one or the other, Nemtal. He's either in head voice. Well, okay, so he could be in head voice part of the time and then flip in the falsetto. Might be a combination of both. Adrian in the middle. George, just don't smoke. Yeah. Good advice, Adrian. Oh, okay. So next week I'll come on the hour earlier. Well, yeah. Is that right? Yeah. Anyway, I know how to sound, but I don't know how to do it because of high notes. F and above, yeah. I have sound in my mind, but I can't produce it. So, Ivan, I know how to sound, but I can't do it. Ivan, you can do it. Don't let your brain tell you that. Unless you're writing for women, you maybe not be able to, but if you're writing for guys, you can do it. Thank you so much. You're welcome, Eros. Adrian in the middle, I'll leave you the link in the comments section. It will disappear, Adrian, unless you leave. Oh, in the comments? Gotcha. Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Nice to have everybody. Yeah, don't drink or don't smoke or drink. Good advice. Stay away. The caffeine will dehydrate your vocal cords, so you got to drink more water if you do that. All right, thanks everybody. Singers Impact, check it out. Get your name on the wait list, and I'll send you information so you can learn more about it in the next day or two. Thanks. Take care. I'm Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live, number 174. You can sing higher with beauty, confidence, and power. I'll see you inside the next video. Thank you, George. See ya.